Welcome to Mental Powerhouse with your host, Lucy. Welcome to my channel. Here I speak on occult sciences from a modern perspective. So my topic today is astrology and the 12 astrological perspectives. I want to make a disclaimer that this information may not be for everyone. So if you are deeply rooted in Christianity and you are not very open-minded to other types of philosophies, then this information may not be for you. I still encourage you to listen because I do think this is helpful. Also, this information may not be for astrological skeptics or people who think that astrology is like predicting the future, or who think that astrology is about planets and signs and the compatibility. You know, a Scorpio can't be with the Capricorn. The people who think it's about that, and it's so much deeper than that. And so this information off top may not be for you, but again, I encourage you to listen nonetheless. This information is, though, for free thinkers, people who have moved beyond religion, who have now begun to start looking at other philosophies to give meaning or purpose to life. These are the people who are creating their own terms in life without causing harm to others. Okay, so we've moved beyond religion. If you are still battling religion and you're still scared about no longer being a Christian, then there are plenty of YouTube channels that are created to help bring the people who are still stuck in religion out of it. But this particular video from me, and my goal here, is to talk to the people who have already moved away from religion and who are now seeking information to help them thrive in life. So once you move away from religion and you start to explore the different types of psychologies and philosophies that are out there, you will begin to notice that there are a lot of different fields of study out there. There's astrology, there's alchemy, there's natural magic, which is also alchemy, there's numerology, there's hermetics, there's Gnosticism. There are so many. And as you begin to read these philosophies and try to resonate with them, you may become confused because a lot of the language from these philosophies are pretty ancient. I mean, they're older than Christianity. All of them are older than Christianity, especially astrology. It's one of the first sciences that we came across. People were planning and plotting and keeping data on the stars for thousands and thousands of years before there was ever a Christianity. So the way that a lot of the terms and the way that the language is spoken around astrology is quite old and ancient. So I'd like to give a modern day perspective on these philosophies because I think they still ring true today. I think they have a lot of practical information that we can use today. So for me personally, I found astrology and alchemy to be the most attractive, and I decided to explore them. So astrology does not require any type of worship. You're not praying to something. You're not praying to planets. You're not, doing things or rituals for planets. That's not necessary for astrology. There is a deeper philosophy that you can apply to your life without the need to worship anything. Also, astrology doesn't have to be based on predicting the future. You don't have to look at your chart to see what kind of future you're going to have. That's not necessary because at the end of the day, we are the masters of our ship. We are the captain of our fate. I might have said that backwards, but you get what I'm saying. So astrology doesn't predict anything for you. What's in store for your life is what's in store for your life based on you. So I just want to get that out there that astrology isn't all about planets and signs. There's a deeper philosophy there that can be utilized. So if I would like to paint a mental picture. If you would like to think of the way that astrology is, in a sense, we can picture an angel with a halo around their head. So you would be the angel, and the halo around your head would be the sky, would be the constellations, would be the stars above you. Okay, you are your own personal angel, your own personal perspective, and above you is the stars, the constellations, and this is what the ancients would study. They were under the universe. So even when you look in ancient pictures and ancient depictions of people who were enlightened, they would have a circle or a halo, in a sense, around their head. This would be representing them being enlightened about their reality, about their place in the universe. You would often see a sun behind them because at the center of our universe, our solar system, is the sun, and each person represents their own sun. So you would see a sun or a circle behind these ancient depictions because this represents them being enlightened about their place in the universe. This represents an acknowledgement of the deeper philosophies underlying why you're here, what you're here to do, your life purpose. So, think of the halo above your head as, you know, your own personal halo, as your own personal crown of knowledge. Okay, this is information that you can use when dealing with your daily life. Okay, so I'm here to modernize the the astrology and the 12 houses that are associated. So if you think of that halo around your head, it has, just like the night sky, it has 12 constellations. Your crown or your halo has 12 pieces. And those 12 pieces represent 12 types of psychologies or perspectives or powers that you can utilize in your daily life, or that can give you information on your daily life. So if we start with the first piece or the first constellation, we would call this the first house. So the first house is an identification with your physical strength or your physical power. This is your psychology around your body. This is your ability to exert force or not. We've all been in situations where you may have wanted to exert force, maybe punch someone, but you did not. You were able to control that power, or you may have been in a situation where you needed to defend yourself, and therefore you did exert power, necessary power. So the first house is all about the ability to control your physical power. It's your ability to defend yourself and others. This is also the area of the mind that deals with body sensations, pain or pleasure coming from your body. Sometimes you can feel something in your body that's not right. That's an awareness of your body, your physicality. Okay, this is the psychology around your body. When you think of first house, you can think of athletes, soldiers, fighters. These are people who have a first house type of psychology because they are focused on the exertion of their force in a healthy, hopefully healthy manner. So that would be the first house, the first slice of your own personal constellation. So that first house would be your identification with your physical strength or power. The second slice would be the second house. This would be your psychology around how you nourish the body. Okay, you can think of this as nutritional health, um, or you can think of it as survival health. How do you feed yourself? How do you eat every day? What are you doing to provide yourself with what you need? This is keeping your body alive. This is taking a job in order to make money, in order to eat. This is your ability to obtain what you need in order to stay alive, basically. So this is the psychology around self-abundance, self-assurance that you will stay alive. So if you want to think of someone, you can think of a farmer who is planting foods with the confidence that his plants will grow. He's feeding himself. This is the worker who's going to work in order to make money to feed themselves. This is the mother giving her child breast milk, feeding the child, nourishing the child's body. So the second house would be the psychology around you nourishing the body from the first house. That first house body, you're now feeding it and nourishing it with the second house psychology. The third house would be your ability to learn. This is your learning style. This is how you take in information, how you interact with the world around you based on what you have learned or are learning. This is your capacity to ask questions about the information you're receiving from the outside world. You can think of the third house as the student or the trainee or the child that is watching the mother do things, or the child that's watching the father do things. You're learning, you're interacting with the world. The third house represents your psychology around how you take in and receive information. Okay, so again, the first house is the body, your psychology around the body. The second house is how you feed that body and nourish that body. And the third house is how you are learning and taking in information and forming the mind, how you are forming your mind. The fourth house would be the representation around the psychology of how you deal with the storage of experiences. So think of the fourth house as like your computer database of all of your experiences. This is the collection of your subconscious. Your subconscious mind is taking in all of this information and collecting it and pulling from it conclusions about life, conclusions about experiences. You're attaching an emotion to all of the information from third house that you have. You're drawing conclusions from that third house information, and you're attaching an emotion to it. So the fourth house can be looked at as emotional intelligence, your ability to experience something and whether or not you should react or not based on your collection of experiences. Okay, so your fourth house is basically your subconscious and all of the things that you've experienced and your awareness that these experiences also lead to certain conclusions and certain emotional reactions. Okay, you're learning things from third house, and as you learn these things from third house, your fourth house is collecting this information and drawing conclusions. And based on those conclusions, you're either, positively affected emotionally or negatively affected emotionally. So that's fourth house. The fifth house deals with the ability to create or come up with ideas. Okay, you can think of the fifth house as your psychology around your idea creation, coming up with ideas. So if we're taking from the previous house, which is fourth house, and also from the third house, you're taking the information from your third house and the collection of emotional storage or information from your fourth house, and you're creating ideas. Okay, so the information from the fourth house and how you feel about that information Together, you're creating ideas in the fifth house. Okay, so the fifth house is how we discover the things that either bring us pleasure or doesn't. Okay, you're coming up with ideas and you're acting on them. Okay, you've learned things, and now based on how you feel, you have an idea. And with that idea, you're going to act out. Your body is going to do the physical things that you need to do to act out that idea. The fifth house is also, we could call it ego expression. But the ego is not good or bad. So I see sometimes a lot that the ego gets a bad reputation. The ego is very vital to life. It's ever changing, it's ever growing, it doesn't stay the same. But the fifth house represents that the ego in its standing still at certain points in your life. So the fifth house is your psychology again around the way you come up with ideas and act on those ideas from previous information that you have stored or that you've learned. The sixth house would represent your psychology around systems, routines, and habits. This is taking ideas that you have from the fifth house and creating routines or habits around them. So let's say that you had the idea from fifth house to go to art school, and so you acted on that idea. And when you got to art school, you decided that you actually like being here. So you will engage in a routine of coming to art school every day or every however often you go to art school class. So sixth house is about creating routines and systems based on the ideas that you have acted out on in the fifth house. You can think of people who are good at maintaining systems when you think of sixth house. People who are very good at having routines and who are good at ensuring good habits that give them good outcomes. So these people would often be looked at as outcome oriented. They're engaging in these routines based on a good idea, and these routines are going to give them a good, healthy, productive outcome. Now, all routines are not good routines, and of course, everyone has the sixth house, so you can have sixth house mentality that is not good for you. Maybe you don't engage in good routines. Maybe you're not very good at keeping up with routines. So this may be an area of your mind where you either need to work on, or it may be an area of your mind that's already pretty good. You already have good routines. So that would be sixth house. The seventh house, if you hear me moving papers, this is my notes. So as we move from the sixth house to the seventh house, I want to take note that houses 1 through 6 are about self-psychology. It's about your personal self-thinking and how these areas of the mind and how they affect you. When we get to houses 7 to 12, these houses are more so geared towards yourself and others. So when we think of the seventh house, this is a house that is concerned with yourself and others. This is the ability to adapt to certain situations. This is about dealing with change or dealing with change within relationships. Okay, so this is how we switch from being a lover to a daughter to a friend to a professional at work. Each type of role that you take on has a certain type of its own identity. So you are these many different identities within one. And the seventh house is the awareness that that is possible, and that sometimes you have to be all these different people in order to maintain these healthy bonds and relationships. Okay, so you are a multi-self within oneself. This is the psychology of the seventh house. The eighth house would be the ability to destroy one of these many identities and then create or grow a new one. Okay, this is the ability to destroy a part of you that is not good or no longer serving you, and then update yourself into a new identity. So this is taking from what you learned from an experience or relationship. You can say from the seventh house. You're taking from the seventh house this bond or this relationship that you've endured. Maybe the relationship didn't go well, and now, based on what you've learned, you have evolved into something new. The wisdom from what you learned in that relationship has destroyed the old part of you, and now you are uplifted to a new you. When you hear people say, I'm not the same person I was, they're talking about eighth house. They're eighth housing. Okay, that is their psychology around what they used to be, and now they are something else. So the eighth house psychology can be traumatic. It can be unpleasant. You killing a part of you cannot feel good. It can feel like you're destroying yourself, but it can also be transformative. You're transforming yourself for the better. So you're killing an old part of yourself based on what you've learned from the seventh house relationships. Okay, so that is eighth house. If we move to the ninth house is an awareness of life choices and the many possibilities that life has to offer. So if we're taking from the eighth house, there's this new you that you've now created, and now this new you needs to be led in a new direction. You know, you're this new you, you've destroyed the old you, you're this new you. What are you going to do? So your life has an array of possibilities that you can choose from. There are many different life choices. So the ninth house would be your awareness of all the life choices that you have, and you doing the research to find out which one is best for you. You're taking the arrow of choice and aiming it at what you think would be best for you. The ninth house is similar to the fifth house because you're also discovering new things that are pleasurable for you, but this is with more wisdom attached because you've gone through experiences and relationships, and you've grown from that, and now you're being very careful about what you move towards your new life choice. So that would be ninth house, exploring different life choices and figuring out what works best for you. The 10th house would be your identification to a particular life house. A particular life choice. This is you identifying with one particular life choice and then working on it and becoming the architect of your own life based on what you've chosen. So this is discovering what works for you and building on it and growing from it. And a thing that we run into with the 10th house psychology is that we can see that creating a life design or a life choice is very hard. And the reality is that there's struggle and hard work that's involved in creating a perfect layout of your life and building on it. So 10th house would be where we would discover how hard it is to grow a life, but nonetheless, we still continue to do so. The 11th house would be our identification with freedom. So if we're taking from the 10th house, now you have worked really hard to make your life easy, and based on your life choices, now you can come down from the mountain of accomplishment, which was 10th house, and help others and inspire others. So this would be 11th house. This is you have become free from the woes of life because you've created such a good life based on choosing a good life choice. And now you have the freedom now to go out and help and inspire others because you've worked so hard. So the 11th house is a psychology around your own personal freedom and your responsibility to your community, helping other people because you have time to do so. So this is how we reinforce our 7th house relationships, and we inspire them to grow. Okay, we're reinforcing those strong bonds from the 7th house based on what we've learned and these life choices that we now have. The last house, or the 12th house, is your psychology around your spirituality. Okay, this is your connection to things that are not physical. Okay, when we say we believe in something, usually that something is not physical. You know, for example, if you're Christian, then your 12th house would be filled with the psychology of Christianity. And your idea of God is something that isn't physical. You can't touch it. Yes, you can probably feel it, but you can't touch it. The 12th house deals with things we cannot necessarily touch, but we know it's there. There's a connection to it spiritually. So if we're taking from the 11th house, you've been reinforcing these 7th house relationships, and now people see you or view you differently. You know, they begin to look up to you. You have inspired them. You have 12th house them. And now they look at you as some type of savior, as someone who, a mentor. You're this selfless person who's come down from all the hard work that they've done, and now you're inspiring them to do well. You are almost looked at as if you are the savior. So we have that in personal experiences in our life. Each and every one of us has a Christ consciousness where people look to us as someone who is, inspirational and who helps those around them. So this would be connected to the psychology around your spirituality in your 12th house. This is the part of your mind that is concerned with dying and waking up somewhere else. Your own personal heaven. Where will you go when you die? And this is also your own spiritual philosophy and what you selfishly share with other people. Selflessly share with others. So that would be your 12th house psychology. So I'm going to end this with the idea that all 12 houses represent the psychology of the human being. And overall, I think that a modern look at astrology can help us find our own personal meaning to life and thrive on it. So I hope this information resonated with you, and I hope you find it useful. My next video I will be introducing the first house in more depth, going into more detail about it. I'll be going into the positives and negative sides of the psychology around the first house. So I will be posting that soon. Thank you so much for watching or listening to Mental Powerhouse. Again, I'm Lucy, and you guys have a great day.